All right, everybody, away we go. It is, I believe it's the 27th. Oh, 28th already. Look at that. It is Wednesday, the 28th of 2026, and this is the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan. And we find ourselves in the very last week of this plan. So we have gone through yet another cycle. I know it was a little bit choppy when we started this one. So I have kind of gone back and forth on what I will do for a break here. I am going to go back to the 2-week break. So this will be the last one in this round because I spent a lot of time today thinking through it, and given the incredible evolution of what's possible with Chat GPT these days and AI in general, I'm going to go through this course and trying to buff up the slides, some giveaways. I want to take a little bit more time to see if I can run it through the machine and come up with better everything. So we will have this one tonight, and then we're off for 2 weeks, and then we will start again. For all of you Griffin agents, remember that you can join me anytime that you want over on Friday calls or the replays of Friday calls, which you should listen to. This is a very strategic call on Wednesday nights where I break down the whole formulaic approach that I use. And I definitely want to make some order changes to it next time. I'm going to start off with the head stuff systems to begin with, so you understand who you have to become to make this business work for you. That's one major change I'll have. And then, just like I said, trying to look at the way I wrote things and make it a little bit more of a story that connects itself step by step, so that all you Griffin agents, especially in TRCers, can connect with the real how we teach you to do it, right? For those of you online and on YouTube, I want to just clean up my playlists over there so it's accessible. I know I like to listen to playlists sometimes when there's a theme and I can get to one after the next. That's why I try to keep these calls inside an hour, because it's hard to work on your business longer than that without losing an attention. The other thing also that I would say to you is that remember at the end of each one of these, because these are relatively easy subjects to talk about, you can speak about everything and anything that you want from a coaching perspective with me. So ask me any questions that you want at the end. So have those prepared though, because when I ask for them, I don't want to go hunting and pecking for them. I'd like to just get them answered quickly and move on. Okay. So we're going to keep it under an hour tonight and we'll go from there. So let me just go. I am showing my screen where you should see all the courses that the steps we've gone through. So reminding you that one of the biggest things, and I do this Mondays and Tuesdays and a couple more people on Wednesday, where I coach top producers and have for a long time on how to take their tactical business and make it strategic. And these are the exact steps that I use to help me do that and then teach other people and now all of you. So it's important to understand, think about this like a framework, a wireframe. It's not going to be different for anybody. So don't dismiss any piece of it as if you can cherry pick, oh, I'll do this, but not that. It doesn't work like that. My goal has been for a long time to try to figure out, how does the business really work? So in other words, who cares what our opinions, our perceptions, our clouded self-image may tell us about how a business works? It works a particular way. So there's this universal truth that you're heading towards. It's philosophical sounding, but it ends up being very practical and real once you figure something out. And to a large extent, thanks to the commitment to a mastermind coaching group. I do individual coaching, but that mastermind group, the core of it's been around with me for a long time. Some people I've known, like the Egans, Dean Miller, over 20 years. And so we've always been in pursuit of trying to figure out how this business really works, put it in the right order so we could harness it, so that in spite of the way we were feeling that week, that month, that year, or in spite of the way the economy was behaving that week, that month, that year, we could harness all of that and make what is largely an unpredictable business predictable. And these are the main strategies that we came up with. Now, remember, strategies, yes, but they're not individualized. They're hooked up together. It's one chain link leads to the next chain link, and it keeps you in this cohesive body of work, so that when you find yourself just winging it, per se, you can come back and say, well, where was I? Okay, I know I'm a little bit off here. Where was I? Now, again, I keep saying for all of you that are more intimately involved in one of the Griffin organizations or the Realty Classroom coaching program, you have in the teachable site all of the how we do this stuff broken down. But of course, in some of these explanations each night, in each week, and I will promise to do that today, I will show you the tactical stuff, how I do something. It's not just what to do, because that's what the slideshow is, but it's how I do it specifically. And again, I never stop working to improve it. But once you have some big rocks in the jar, you don't have to reinvent things and you don't have to get distracted. I'll leave you with one thought. At the end of the year, there's a very strange phenomenon with top producing real estate agents that I coach. They will go to an event or they will hear from somebody else or they'll watch somebody and observe somebody else. And all of a sudden they'll get completely distracted off of a strategic thing and say, and it just happened today, well, this guy did 81 sides, following this methodology in a CRM. I said, no, he didn't. It just doesn't work like that. What he did was he followed up with a lot of these people. He converted a lot of people. And he didn't necessarily do it strategically. He just did it by self-discipline with brute force. I said, that's wonderful. It can monetize, but it's not a business plan. This is a business plan, so that no matter what methodology by which you want to get your leads, I don't really care. You could be a referral only type of person. You could be an online lead generation. I don't recommend either of those to be the primary mover. I'm a believer in direct paths to get the listing leads that we need, and that drives the entire business. Think about what I'm saying. If somebody didn't do that each week, there would be no inventory in the multiple listing service. So I want that somebody to be us. So we have to come up with strategies so that all of you, no matter what your level of experience is, it's not going to be someday you know how to convince somebody to list their property with you. It's today and it's tonight, okay? Now, of course, we've already gone through the course and we're at week 12. So we are at the end. And the end really is an important thing because it's the asset for the business that you're creating that can really accelerate your success, called a past client. That's an asset inside your business. So imagine that we've gone through all of this by first starting off and explaining how the model really works, right? And then we got into why we're doing it, which starts an opening up of the conversation of money. I know there's a why you like to do it, but you're here because of the money. You have to make a living somehow, and you've chosen this. So we need to deal with financial goal setting for the top line, or in our business known as gross commission income. And we talked about how to do that very specifically. And I've even, for all you Griffins and TRCers, I've developed a very specific GCI goal tracking sheet that's incredibly powerful, so that when you close a deal, you can look back and say, was that an on-target deal or off-target? We talked about that in week 2. And week 3, like I said, I'm going to change the order of things. I may put mindset either at the first week or second. I have to think through the way I want to explain that to you, probably the second week, because I like explaining the model every time, first of all, so you see why we look at this in these chunks. But the mindset systems are so critically important, not just for running a successful small business in real estate, but also for the rest of your life. I've learned along the way some very simple mind systems that they're not rah-rah motivational talk things. They are very specifically how to become conscious of the battle between your thriving brain and your animal brain. And then how to use and program the subconscious mind to make this plan work for you by programming your brain even before you've done these things. And that's what pro athletes do. And we talked about that. Then we started to roll over marketing. Hey guys, Paul, open mics. Can you close that? So what we do there is then we get into marketing. So you see, it takes 3 weeks just to warm up to get into a marketing decision, right? I mean, a marketing conversation. But everybody wants to start with that. The animal brain wants to get off and start talking about marketing and defaulting towards, what about the leads? Every new agent, that's all their mindset wants to talk about is leads. And I will promise you, every agent that's brand new is completely ill-equipped to understand how to convert the best leads into the best listings and then attract the best buyers from there. So we talk about content marketing versus this perception, especially in this day and age, that somehow you're going to go on your Instagram account, your Facebook account, you're going to miraculously get listing leads that you can convert. It's nonsense. Not that social media doesn't play a role in our business, but it is definitely not a primary role if you want to be successful. So we teach you content marketing by talking about how to put together these packages of information. Then we have you understand that those packages of information form the basis for one of the most principled core concepts in marketing, which is the unique selling proposition, which isn't a one-off moment or event. It's actually a way of doing business so that you can answer the question, why should they do business with you? And by the way, the cheat code is because you have a plan. And I know some of that stuff sounds generic, but the truth is, right? Oops, what happened? Did I get lost, Wendy? Uh-oh, what happened here? Did I lose you guys? You can't hear me. Oh, that's really good. Can you hear me now? Okay, that was bizarre. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to summarize what I was saying. We have 12 steps here. We're at the last one where the idea is the end in mind. We're trying to create this asset at the back end of our business, right? So that's the most important thing. And that's where we're at today. So sorry about that. Had no idea it wasn't recording. It will be on YouTube. So I'm sure that, or maybe it wasn't there either. So who knows? Anyway, I'll pick it up from the slideshow. Here we go. So let's get started. This is the end. And by the way, I'm going to take 2 weeks off because I want to reinvent this. You guys must have not been paying attention because nobody let me know until just now, 12 minutes in. So let's, yeah. Okay. That was weird because then I heard you. Okay. Are you seeing this, Paul? Past client follow-up. You see the slideshow? Wow. Get some really stuff going on here. So share this tab, share this tab. You good? Does everybody see it that way? Okay. Hang on. I know what's wrong. One thing there. Let me just, I think I know what the issue is. Let's share. Okay. What do you see, Ben? Okay, good. That's what you're supposed to see. Everybody see that too? Everybody see, you see the slideshow right now in my head off to the side? Everybody see the same thing? Okay, well, I unpinned me. Yeah, refresh your screen because I unpinned me. I was pinned. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna rock and roll. Okay, here we go. Past client follow-up. Your past clients are definitely the accelerant to your growth. I had this conversation a lot lately with all these top producers who have created all these past clients. And when I asked one of my newer coaching clients today, on a scale of 1 to 10, how intentionally do you do you follow up with your past clients? And he said 0. I thought that was a little harsh. I remember doing it for myself, and I said a 5. I thought from time to time I would drop a call into somebody and say hello, and then there would be some follow-up business there, or there would be a referral. So I gave myself a 5. So if you're new to this business, I'm going to set you up and tell you the idea of running a formulaic approach in a contact business, meaning contacts are you're servicing that contact. In our case, it's not insurance, it's not wealth management, it's the sale or purchase of a house. So that contact person in that service business runs along this assembly line where at the end they take on the persona of a past client. It's a disposition. It's the disposition of being a past client, okay? But the contact is still the same thing. So the consistent thing running through your business is contact information. And what I say about a business is at the very, very front end, when you do begin marketing and you do begin to go after leads in any way, the idea is to try to get as fully formed a contact as you can. What does that mean? You want full names, you want a good mailing address, okay? You want a good email address, and you want a good cell phone number. You want all of those things because that creates the opportunity to communicate and to market to those people all the way through that conversion process from a lead where you don't know why, you don't know how motivated they are, and you don't know if they will accept your original information product, which we taught you how to do, and then allow you to follow up digitally and physically until they become your client. And then ultimately they go through this closing process, which we talked about last week, which is an intense mini business in and of itself, crossing T's, dotting I's. For example, we just got snowed out here in Boston. Somebody wanted to postpone a closing because they're saying, oh, we wouldn't be able to get into the house. I'm like, bullshit. Of course we will. We're on top of this. We'll have, a guy out there to shovel this out tomorrow morning, and you could do the walkthrough tomorrow. No problem. So somebody was trying to go through that closing process with us, and we're all over it. In fact, I have to go to Boston to get the papers, which were also, the deed and everything, which was signed and never made it in the mail because of the snow. So to back up that set, I'm going to get it. So that's a whole process in of itself. So the fact that I created a plan with this gal who's super smart, super bright, owns 3 multi-million-dollar houses, and customer service is everything, because I want to birth her into my past client plan so that I can get those other 2 houses, right? I'm selling one for a really good number at 1.375, but she's got one that I think is 2.2. She's got another one that's 1.8. So how I birth her tomorrow, really Friday, into the past client module is everything to accelerate my growth. She's originally one of these expired contacts that Kathy found, followed up with. We did a great job. We went out, executed the plan, but right now, it's very important she gets birthed into the past client module correctly, right? So let's talk about some of that stuff and how that all happens. All right. So again, somebody yell and scream if you don't see slides changing and information filling in. So how does your closing process set you up for success or failure? Well, it's critical to remember that if you abdicate your responsibility for closing your client, which I could easily do right now to Laura and to Jamie, easily, but I haven't. And that's what I was just telling you about it. You may be neglecting them and creating ill will, no matter how well you performed prior to that. So I will tell you that this gal is very high strung. She's on multiple boards of pharmaceutical companies. She's a young gal too. I mean, in her 50s, and has just been wildly successful as a drug manufacturing consultant. So the first time I met her, she had 3 laptops going. And the next time she was on a board meeting. So she's high strung. And so when she's under pressure, she gets very feisty. So there were times when we would get an offer and it wasn't exactly what she wanted. And she went from this really cool, calm, collected gal to absolutely being like a viper and almost biting me. And I had to lean back in a little bit. So, during those relationships, you're trying to get a feeling for, am I damaging this one, or am I using just enough pressure to keep it under control and keep it moving? And in that case, I didn't want her to blow up one of her own deals. So we had that kind of a relationship going into the closing. And then during the negotiation, she got a little feisty. Well, why do they want to come back? And there's nothing wrong with my house. So she would get feisty like that. And then they wanted to bring in a contractor to double check on the wall that was under question. And I went myself. Well, thank you so much for being there. I'm so glad. Yeah, I didn't realize it was nothing, because they start to craft an idea that the world is against them, and they will blame you. So even though you're about to do a 1.375 closing in this case, and it's a great payday, I want that happy past client. So I don't want ill will. So now I know that I need to pay attention to this. And I will tell you in another case, I'm actually going back up to Boston Friday, because I have a property that closed some 3 months ago probably, but she's still feisty about some little tiny things that haven't gotten taken care of, because I thought I could wait till the shelves that we had to put in for her were finally manufactured, which is going to happen the first week in February. But she's got this long list of these nothing items, but they have to be taken care of. So it is very important to make sure that your past clients aren't neglected, right, during that closing process. Well, in that closing process, they're not neglected because you will have a very difficult time birthing a happy past client while you still have control. So once you close with care, what's the most critical component of good past client follow-up as we get into this? Well, it's critical to make your past client follow-up, he said, because he's clicked out, intentional and systematic. So what I was saying, I can't remember whether I was on mute still at that point in time. I was coaching somebody just today who's a newer coaching client for mine, who's a top producer. He has done enormous amounts of sales over many years. And I asked him on a scale of 1 to 10, give yourself a grade for being intentional in following up with your past clients. And so he said 0. Okay. And it was a little too harsh because everybody does at least something. We fog the mirror by calling somebody or seeing somebody else. We do something. And I said, well, that's pretty harsh, but I gave myself a 5 when I asked this question, when I started to get more strategic and then tactical. And then I told him, I have the system already built for you. So I showed it to him. And I will show you that tonight too. So you see how stupid simple, once I was able to think about this strategically, I was able to make this past client follow-up system. And then I was able to perform over the course of 12 months in a systematic way, right? Now, what's the best way to maintain your relationship with your past clients in a professional manner? Well, it's important to keep your past clients updated on what? Sorry, it keeps clicking out. The local market conditions on a regular basis to do what? To maintain your professional positioning. Now, most people don't think like this because they don't take a strategic beat. See, what I thought about was strategically, well, how in a business where it's transactional and you don't really do a transaction with somebody, if they really like you, maybe like every 5 to 7 years, they move. Maybe. Some people stay there much longer, some people shorter. I understand that. But how do we stay in touch with them without being a pest? And this is where past client follow-up systems tend to break down because a lot of people say, well, I don't want to be a pest. Okay, well, how could you stay relevant in their lives without being a pest? Well, why don't you just act as if you are their real estate financial advisor? See, a wealth manager would keep you up to date on the answer to how's the market. From time to time, whatever frequency, they would give you a market report on the macroeconomics of what they thought the direction of the market was, economically, Fed funds rate today, and how all those things were going to affect things. And then they would go down into the microeconomics of what individual stocks and bonds, et cetera, that you own. Well, why don't we treat this the same way, I thought? So I thought, if I just use the same piece of content, now this goes back to early on in our strategic conversation about marketing, I went back to say, well, I'm making this market update as part of my original content information product. Why don't I just use that and give that same thing to the past clients? Okay. And again, the tactical brain says, well, they don't need it. Well, wait a minute. It's not that they don't need it. It's whether or not they want it. And if somebody owns a property or sold one even, everybody's curious as to the answer to the question, how's the market? They all are. Any homeowner is interested in how the market is, especially from an expert. I had a conversation, for example, tonight with a gentleman on my road who heard me speak at a owners meeting because we were egregiously overtaxed post-COVID by a rogue assessor, and they all hired an attorney. I'm like, oh, I don't need an attorney. This is what I do. And I actually got through the process, appealed it to Boston, and won. So I have this standing in front of all these wealthy owners, and I offered to help them. This guy reached out, and he has zero intent of doing anything. But I had the information about here's how the market is. The average price is 1.2. So we'll work your average. And I was able to talk to him intelligently, not even in the context where that person is going to be a past client anytime soon or go through my process. But I use that same information for any homeowner. That's just an example of any homeowner with a different context than selling, but I'm ready. Because in the beginning, I have that content marketing idea that each month we will update this market update. So here I have it in my hands. But I say to myself early on, okay, I'm going to go back to this fully formed contact concept. And I'm going to say, I've got to get in front of that past client and stay there forever. Forever. I want that positioning. Clearly, I maintained or I created that positioning at a listing presentation for expired FSBO probate or a home eval, whatever, right? Refer to whatever, doesn't matter. I gave that market update as the macroeconomic answer to that person to say, here's how the market is. And they liked it. So presumably, if they go through my whole process from prospect, they're still getting it. Client, they're still getting it. Closing, in case it falls apart, they're still getting it. And obviously into the past client. So why would I ever leave the ability to market my position as the individual expert in their mind's eye so that someday when they go to repeat, they already know I'm professionalized on the answer to how's the market. And if they refer, they can say, you should really talk to Danny. He knows the market. So it's just a positioning thing. And that's a marketing 101 thing. So we're just giving them data, right? And that's the point in this whole thing. So the most important part, though, on that is understanding the difference in mediums. When you see the plan right after this, I'll show you my mind map. When you see the plan, you're going to see very clearly how I deliver that market update both digitally and physically, and how I think about it when it comes to past clients. Why do I use certain frequencies on one versus the next? What am I thinking? How does it work? I'm going to show you that in a second. Then what's the best way to maintain your relationship with your past clients in a personal manner? See, there are many coaches and trainers over the years that I've run into that talk about all this gift giving, which I'm a huge fan of, right? But not just personal random gifts as if we're trying to maintain a personal relationship. Yes, that works. And yes, when they're ready, somebody will do that. But I took the concept of gift giving and I wanted it to be professional first. Because if I start giving gifts to random people that might be prospects, current clients, maybe, but it's not relevant, right? But it's super relevant in a very particular business professional context to be personal with them around a very particular date. And that's when it's important to send your clients a what? Happy property anniversary gift on a yearly basis and call them to maintain the personal relationship and express your gratitude echoing into the future. See, we're so transactional. We get the check and that's it. It's like we forget them. Now, some of you are more, I would say, empathetically savvy than that. And you're not as sociopathic at the extreme where you, hey, whatever, it's a business transaction. I have nothing to do with you anymore. That's it, right? And that's very transactional. A lot of top producers are actually like that, not even because they're bad people or sociopathic or worse, psychopathic. They don't get it. They don't get the strategy of staying in touch with somebody. And it's fun, especially the ones that like you. It's fun to hear from those people. So what we do is we send a box of chocolates about a week or so in advance of the closing date. That's what the happy property anniversary date is. So if somebody closes on Friday, right, this week, so the 30th, next year, a week before the 30th, so that, the 23rd, they're going to have a box of chocolates from Chatham Candy mailed to them. They're going to get it. And then we're going to now have completed all of the deliveries of the content. Candy is content. Newsletters are content. One is professional. The second is a professional in the same vein, but different medium. And the third is personal. So I've got all these touches on somebody. Now I can ask. You see the difference? I spend so much time strategically thinking about what I could give them to ingratiate myself to them. Professionally first, personally second, not the other way around. But now I can actually follow up and be intelligible, and I don't need to randomly pick this. I remember talking to somebody that I was coaching, and I'm like, oh, you need a lot of business. So what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to call my past clients. I'm going to call. Well, what are you going to say? Well, do they have anybody refer? So you're going to just pick up the phone and start pounding away and taking. You might get somebody like that, but why don't you just turn it into a campaign? So sometimes when somebody's been so used to being transactional and then the economy fades away from them, or gosh, there's so many things that could happen. Their energy runs out, they've been sick or whatever, and they have to run back into the business. They think that they can just dive in a pile of past clients, having not maintained the relationship properly, and take from them. It's a very difficult thing to do. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it's a very difficult thing to do. And if you want to build a systematically predictable business that's not subjected to your levels of energy or the ebbs and flows of the economy, then you want to be systematic and consistent over the 365, right? That's what you want. So what's the proper way to do this without ruining your relationship and being that pest and then being embarrassed and not wanting to do it again? Well, when you call them on the property anniversary date or thereabouts, you ask them if any of their friends or family are thinking about selling or buying so you can send your plan to them. Lastly, ask if they have any plans to move again or buy another property. So I'm going to show you how this works next in a mind map, right? But it's important to realize when you're talking about past clients that asking for and receiving referrals from your past clients requires a very different framework from asking other professionals for referrals. See, sometimes you hear this by referral only, and nobody really educates you what that really means. A lot of the by referral only programs are teaching you to make relationships with builders, if you have them locally, probate attorneys, estate attorneys, whatever. They go down the list of all these people. But that's got nothing to do with past clients who might be referring themselves to repeat or might refer somebody that they know about that they trust. So that's just something you should consider when you're thinking about this, okay? All right, I'm going to open up this mind map because this is a fun one to show you because it won't overwhelm you if you're new to the business. But again, remember, the idea is that we are trying to get to a point where you're creating a happy past client. We call them happy Griffins, right? That's the goal of this whole systematic approach, is to build this asset base of past clients who are largely happy, who are more than likely to repeat and refer. And if we systematically run content at them and we follow up, that business accelerates your growth. Let that sink in. That business coming from the back end of your business where you've completed a transaction with that asset base, it's an accelerant. And it's so much more profitable than what it takes to get new business. So all of my coaching clients, I have to tell you all, and then everybody that works with you, you have to remember the hardest business we do is at the front end of a business. In other words, we're going out into the wild and we're trying to find a listing and / a buyer through methodologies that ingratiate us to people we do not know. We've never met them before. We have no context with them before. You have to do that part too. But that's more expensive when it comes to leads, when it comes to telemarketing dollars and time, when it comes to gas and all that thing, whatever it's going to take. And then packages we have to make, we have to spend a lot of upfront money. So even though we can target a really good listing and get it, the cost to get those is more expensive than the cost to get a client to repeat. So people say, what are you nuts? $22 a year for somebody that might not do anything? Whoa, wait a minute. $22 is cheap. Once a year? And then I got a mail for, I forget what it is now, $2 or so, $2.63. I think it's in my mind map to send a 4-page newsletter once a year, 4 times a year. I mean, it's a joke inexpensive compared to what some lunatics will spend on buyer platforms, which don't even bring you in the avatar listing. So you have to think about this rationally and really think through, why are we doing it like this? Because it is the most, hence the name of this course, right? It is the most profitable per transaction stuff, okay? Now, again, I know a lot of you are not going to start off and say, well, I have all these past clients, because you're brand new, right? So it's not going to make any sense to you. I have to have a new share here. Hang on one second. Let's do a... You should, let me get the YouTube one too. You should be able to see a mind map in a second. And again, I apologize at the beginning of this. If you see this YouTube video, there's no audio at the beginning. Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Ben. Yep. Thank you. I just wanted to get it up on YouTube too. Okay, I'm good to go. So the point being is that here's the past client tactical plan. So understand what I'm doing. I taught you strategic, that's the highest level. A lot of the whys we do things and started to put things in order. But when I go from that concept of a strategy based in what is, I say, logic and common sense, I then have to get tactical and I have to build the actual executable plan, the how to do that. That was what to do. You just saw this is how we do it. So the first thing that I'll say, let's pretend we're talking to a top producer and you're all looking over my shoulder while I do this. I'm saying to them, is there any place that you keep a good solid list of your past clients? Okay. I don't know. Well, so today I'm going to give you this real conversation with Dan and Dave. So Dave's his brother who's administratively trying to help him. I said, does it exist anywhere? He says, yeah. I said, is it easy to get? No. And I said, Dave, can you get at it? He goes, only since I started working with him. I said, how far back does that go? Well, June of 25. I said, I'll take it. I want you to just get all of his closings, okay, that took place from June, and we're going to start with that. Okay, let's just start with that. Let's start with something. It's a good, clean list. And then we're going to form this formula. We're going to form it for you guys in the right way so that it becomes something continuously going, right? Because June comes along, we're going to be giving out the first gifts to those people. Now, of course, we're going to work retroactively, and then we're going to get the rest of people that we can as easily as we can. And I said, listen, go back 2 years. Don't go back further than that. Then go back 3, then 4, then 5. I actually made a cutoff at one point in time. I'd have to ask Laura what that cutoff in years was, because I used to do a lot of low-end business. And quite frankly, I didn't want to be intentional to follow up on that. I needed to get out of that business, and I only have so much time and resources. I'm not saying that if somebody from the past calls me, I wouldn't take the business. Of course I would. But I have to be intentional about managing, and I have to steer the ship in the right profitable way. So I actually made the tough decision, actually, when I got strategic, to cut out a lot of old leads and definitely past client follow-up. So at the front end and the back end, I had to make 2 very difficult decisions to right the ship and move it in the right direction. And I would do it all over again, but even quicker and faster, right? So if I come in here and I'm looking at this, I'm looking for fully formed contacts for past clients, okay? So remember the disposition. If you think about it in a CRM, the disposition means they've done business and closed with me, okay? That's what the past client label of a fully formed contact means. Now, if I were a mess, okay, as a manager, a lot of my clients will be embarrassed. Well, what am I going to say? I haven't talked to this guy in like 6 years. I said, okay, I'm going to devise this cutesy little idea of a message in a bottle. If you've ever seen like a romance comedy or something, like somebody writes a message when they're stranded on an island, they put it in a bottle and cork it up and send it, and off it goes, and it arrives at the shore, and hey, I still love you, right? That's what I imagine. So I wrote, and I'll show that to you too in a second here, but I just want to get through the mind map first. I wrote that up to say, look, here's your reset. It's okay. I'm sorry. I haven't been in touch in so long, but I'm back. And I'm going to be a good boy this time around. I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to do this for you, so you can expect these things to happen. Well, what do you mean? I can expect what? Well, you can expect me to give you a market update every month digitally. I'm going to give that to that list of past clients, and I'm going to send it. Now, I happen to use a software called Infusionsoft. You can use whatever email server that you use. The problem with this, however, I know immediately, is that my open rate is going to be restricted because things end up in spam files. People don't see things in email. It gets overwhelming. And I have tracked it. I wish I could show it to you. I'm having trouble getting into my Infusionsoft, but I've tracked it at a low end of, say, 45%, a high end of about 60%. And I then started to put links in there where they could click through and take another step and go to my website. So I made my newsletter over time go from just a cut and paste JPEG of my one-page market update to a fully formed email with videos and listings. And again, I'll show it to you, but I made it go up. But this bugged me. I started thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, you can't sleep on this because digital is a 55% to 40% failure rate. If it's 45-60 open, it's 55 to 40 failure. That means nobody got it. And then you need to pay attention to opt-outs and bounces. You might think you're getting this stuff to people and it's bouncing. It's not even getting to them, right? Why? Did they spam you? Do they not like you? Those things give you some clues as to somebody who doesn't want to hear from you, or at least not in their email. So then the next thing you do is, okay, well, I'm going to really make sure I get a much higher delivery rate. So now I have to go to what? The mailing address. Did I get a good forwarding address? Somebody sells with me. Where am I going to send Don McCullough her stuff? In Philadelphia. Good. So do we have that quarterly mailer, address? Yes, we do. So I started off with actually a one pager, which again was just nothing more than the PDF of the market update. So again, that one piece of content being able to be repurposed in all these different ways, an email JPEG, a PDF mailer, and I would send that out and I would then double-side it because I have two markets, Boston and Cape Cod. I double-sided it, threw an address on one side, folded it over, taped it, $1.09 per newsletter. What a joke. Right? So I have some 500 plus or minus good mailing addresses for my past clients that I chose to stay in touch with. So every quarter I'm $500. I'm only $2,000 a year. Now I know that sounds a lot to people that are just in the business, but for a business that does my volume, it's peanuts. So I upped it. Now I'm $276 for a 4-pager that says even more. And my goal is to have a list of such clean mailing addresses that I get 100% delivery rate to that segment of the list. So I've got 12 attempts to get to them digitally and 4 physically. I've got 16 attempts. Well, that's intentional. So if I was 5 at the managerial of this, because I cleaned up the list, I reset the program, I got in a rhythm digitally, I got in a rhythm physically, I gave myself, let's say, a 7.5. Then I said, yeah, but you still have to show them you love them in a personal way. So let's get some candy sent out to them at their property anniversary where I do have real context. I don't know everybody well enough to be sending them birthday cards or how their kids and all that. I don't have that. But with every single one of them, I am bonded in this property anniversary selling or buying date. So, and again, I said 1 week, 2 weeks before their property anniversary, out goes a box of candy for $22. So I load up on that because it's a real gift. It's a good gift and it's appreciated by these people. Now, and only now, am I able to call them because I am so dialed in on everything that I did. So look at how stupid simple that campaign was to go and become completely intentional. I'll give myself about a 9 now. I never give myself a 10 because I'm always looking to improve it. So let's dig in a little bit to a couple of these things and I'll show it to you. I'm going to show you the message in a bottle, and then I'm going to show you the follow-up script. So you really tactically see this thing, okay? So bear with me because I am going to have to change where I am. Okay, so bear with, just a lot of windows open to go find it. Okay, this should be shared on YouTube, and then this should be shared on Zoom. So here is the message in a bottle. You should, everybody seeing that on the Zoom especially? Yeah? Anybody? Bueller? You don't see it? Okay. Everybody seeing it? Okay, good. Okay. So here was the message in a bottle. Hello. After some time away, I'm thrilled to reconnect with you all, my real estate family. I've realized that keeping you informed about the latest trends in the market is crucial, especially since the changes can what? Significantly impact your property's value, right? So those would have been for people that still owned a property, right? That I had sold to, or I knew where they lived, right? So what to expect? So I was setting them up to tell them, hey, I'm going to tell them about the X-Mind. I'm going to tell them about the mind map. I'm going to get monthly updates starting this month. I'll send you digital market update to keep you informed, and quarterly insights. Every quarter you'll receive a detailed analysis from me packed with my personal insights, etc. Okay? So I was just telling them I'm going to do something physically and digitally. In addition, I'll be reaching out to catch up to confirm your contact details and express my gratitude for allowing me to serve you, right? Something like that. I mean, I told them to clean this up. And then of course, you throw something in, hey, thinking about selling my new seller packages, blah, blah, blah. So something off of that was to get people off the schneid and say, okay, stop overthinking this. You're not going to go and worry about what they say. You're just going to do it. Now, the script like this says this. Ben, this is Danny Griffin from Griffin Realty Group. I just want to call you and say happy property anniversary. Did you get the gift? Right? Now, oh yeah, well, oh, the chocolates. Yeah. Sometimes you have to remind people. Here's the challenge with people these days. Even though they love you, they've gotten so busy, they get the chocolates, they see it, they appreciate it, and they eat it. And they don't pick up the phone and say, thank you. So the idea of being proactive is we're going to go in behind the chocolates because that's an ethical bribe. It's an ethical bribe. I mean, I'm going to give you chocolates because I'm going to ask you for a few things, okay? But I'm going to give you chocolates first, fatten you up, get you ready, okay? Checking in. Hey, the kids are good? Yeah, everybody loves the house? Super. Hey, by the way, are you also receiving my market update newsletter as well? I send it out email each month and then quarterly in the mail. I got the one in the mail, but I didn't see the email. All right, let me just check. Now I can check on the fully formed contact information. Do I have a good email address? Geez, I have the right address. You might be going into spam. So take a look into spam. It would say market update from Griffin Realty Group, whatever it would say. And I'll send you a test one now. So be on the lookout for it. I'll shoot you a text too to say, hey, I sent it. Now, why is it so important to slow down there and make sure they're receiving it? Because you're losing your influence over them. You want to be a true influencer? Influence the people you already have influence over. But they have to consume your content to maintain that. So if you don't validate that they are doing it, you missed an opportunity. It's not just there to say, oh, did you get the gift? Oh, you got the chocolates. Good. Do you know anybody? You don't do that because you're only going to be contacting them once a year in this program. So you want to make sure your content is doing the follow-up job for you and keeping them reminded. And if you do this year after year after year, it's just crazy. They come to expect it and love it. And they're humbled by it. And you become a no-brainer to repeat with for the people that really appreciate it, right? Hey, by the way, while I have you, do you happen to know if any of your family or friends are thinking about selling or buying and could use a copy of our plan? Now, you could get into this and really dig into it, right? If yes, or if you remember anybody, I'll email them a copy of that same market newsletter and a list of properties with pictures and details that sold in their price range straight from MLS. And I'll also include a copy of our seller or buyer plan, depending on what they're doing, right? Now, if they refer you, you can get the email address and all that. How about you guys? You thinking about selling or buying again, right? If yes, I can send you the information as well. No. Okay, you're going to stay there. All right, we'll keep in touch and make sure you're receiving the market update. We're happy to send information to any of your friends or family that are thinking about making a move. So you're conditioning them to go to work for you, all in an ethical, bribed way. I'm keeping you up to date professionally. I'm feeding you once a year. And all I'm asking is that you go to work for me. Remember me. That's it. It's a very simple, logical thing. And it uses the laws of psychology that are built into this entire strategic course, right? So it's a very, very, very simple plan that you need to think about. And the idea is when you're growing a business, and I don't care if it's 5 people, oh, we sold 5, so what? Those are 5 people. If one of them this year referred you somebody who bought or sold something for 800,000, $1 million, of 2 million, it's enormous return on investment of your time and tiny outlay of money. Okay. All right. Voila. That's it. Got about 10 minutes here for questions. Happy to do this. Right. So go there. Questions, thoughts. Yep, go ahead. Yes. Yep. We can. Yep. Yeah. Just and Paul, be a little early and just hit me with that because a lot will happen between now and then. Just say, hey, we're here to do that door knocking. Yeah. Yep. Beautiful. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, looking forward to it too, and I'll tell you what, Paul, Wendy McGrath, I don't know if she's still on here, she's had great success, door knocking people. Yeah. In fact, we went. Yep, yep, yes, yes. Yep, yep. Yeah, the same thing you and I talked about. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and I've talked to. Yeah, I've it's actually come up multiple times because I'm proud of all of you that are door knocking, that are going out there. You're following the yellow brick road. You're coming back with a coachable moment. It actually is all going to get easier for you the more you ask these questions and you imagine this happening. Yeah, go ahead, Paul. Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I've actually gone through this with Luke because Luke has gone from, and again, we talk about that when it comes to the mindset stuff. If you don't understand that the animal brain's going to shut you down if you try to make it too big, then that's the first thing to talk about, right? And we talk about that almost every week on this call. The number one book, that War of Art, is you are in this business because you have a creative entrepreneurial drive to run a business for yourself in real estate. The problem is that it is a business and this is a framework and there's a lot to it, but we have to make it tactically very, very small. And if you can think of one target at a time, one listing at a time, and not try to do, well, I'm going to look at all these. No, you're not. You're going to look at one expired. You're going to look at one expired under a certain, set of circumstances, meaning it didn't just expire. It expired probably 2, 3 weeks ago. They didn't relist quickly with somebody. So it's available. You're going to put together a singular package for that singular door, and you're going to go at that singular door for those, I don't know, 4 hours or so that week that Paul is referencing. That's it. You're going to do that one and that one only. Because if you think like Luke did, Luke wasn't working for a while, he was taking care of some personal stuff. He came back into the business and as he is a competitive guy, he made 5 packages. And guess how many got delivered? Zero, because it was too many to drive by. It was too many to keep driving by that one until they saw that the lights were on and he could have a successful door knock. It's too many. So the brain shuts down. Yeah, the brain shuts down. And on his contact pipeline manager, there were these 5 leads that were still there. And everything was clogged and the whole system, the pipeline was stuck. So the way you do it is get rid of all those names or pick one of them that hasn't relisted. That's your preference. Put that package in your front seat and now go execute that tactical plan left to right. We'll get into it more on Friday because it is fundamentally the reason why most real estate agents never succeed. Nobody ever tells them, number one, how you can talk intelligently to somebody you don't know, even if it's your first day with a license. That's number one. So making that gift of information, here's a package. I mean, making that beautiful gift of information in an organized, unique selling proposition way is everything. So if you had 5 of these sitting on your seat and you killed yourself to make 5, it's too much. It's just too much. It took too long to make these. Takes way too long to try to door knock 5 people, and then nothing happens. And then you get overwhelmed and you say something really, really dumb, right? And I mean dumb from an animal brain standpoint. That business didn't work for me, and that's just a mistake. but that's exactly how easy. Yeah, yeah, totally. Which is why, because all of you start part-time unless you really are in a position where you don't have to. But the idea is, I think it's really important to understand that telemarketing gives you leverage of time, but you need the time to make the volume of calls. That's what, if you look at telemarketing and door knocking, great news is we only have to make some adjustments to the scripting and how you present that offer. And there's massive advantage to make an offer face to face of a package because you get a quick yes or no. One of my clients, Will Daly in Arizona, he went out, he had two packages consecutively. That one was from the week before, so he decided to door knock. He went up to one that he'd been the week before because he saw the guy there, and the guy said, "Yep, I don't want that. Don't come here again." Great. That's a nice clean no. And then the next house he went to was, "Oh wow, this is great. Thank you so much." And he got a little confused, just like Paul was talking about, as to he forgot to make the follow up offer and what's next. And we'll talk about that, on the coaching call on Friday. But simply put, when you give pictures and details of properties that sold around a listing, straight from MLS, complete with pictures and details, maps, etc., you give a one-page summary market update, and you give a seven-step plan on how any house gets sold. That's a massively, I guess, massively beneficial gift for them to figure this out with or without you. But you have to remember, without your insight on what parts to do and not to do. For example, what do you mean? Well, you should recondition this by painting this, do this landscape, fix that broken whatever. I can't afford it. Okay, well, then I will get you a contractor to come out and price it because we need to talk about that as it affects price. So those are tips on what to do and what not to do. You can't give those until you're in the house, but you're not going to get in the house until you give the information. They get a chance to go online and vet you and make sure you're not a psychopath, right? Literally. And then in addition, the one major skill set we teach in this group that you should know how to do, because it's not rocket science, but it is a little bit mathematical, is the analysis in the net sheet. If you can do those simple things and you can just consecutively try 1 week, this one house, the next week that you work, that house, and it's all part-time. That's not a full-time job to make a package and go buy one house. It's not. If in addition to that, in Paul's world out there with Seattle Griffins, in Cantu Group, you can sit on the dialer and you can also put in some telemarketing time. Oh my gosh, that's what a wonderful world that is. But that's the same thing. You have to be consistent. I would recommend that one package to one door each week, and then maybe 2 to 4 hours on the phone on the dialer. We could change your life, because you're only trying to, prospect just a couple of people to be successful. If you're looking at that GCI goal tracker and you set your goal correctly, it doesn't take that many people, right? So, all right, I'm going to stop there, unless there's a burning question. Anybody have anything burning? You're going to freak out if I don't answer it? Okay. Hearing none. Thank you for being here live. Sorry at the beginning with the little glitch, but we're going to take 2 weeks off because I'm going to take some time to redo this course. I need to put that. Whoop, yeah, what list? I can't remember now, Rowan. Refresh. Um, that's what Paul was just talking about. So I don't know if I have a mind map. Let me see if I have a mind map. Yeah, well, you can, hold on, Rowan. I do have a mind map. So Paul will give you, I'll show it. Paul will give you a copy of this listings acquisition campaign. Paul, he was, oh shit, what happened to that? Oh boy. He is looking for, hold on, I have to find it now. I might have put it in trash. Bear with me. He's looking for what to do specifically. He's gotten overwhelmed. and he's looking to be specific in what he executes. Boy, what happened to this thing? Okay. Hang on, guys. I have to. No, it's not. It is the listings acquisition mind map. So I put it into my trash by accident. I have to drag it back out. So let me do that. Hang on. Huh. Let me see. There it goes. Okay. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put this, Rowan, this is an extremely detailed list I'm going to show you here. Okay. But it is not as complex as it looks if you just think through it logically. But let me show my screen for a second again, because I'll give it a quick explanation. But this is what I was going to show you. So again, it's all about listings acquisition. The open houses are obvious. It looks like a very busy thing, but the idea is you're asking me, can you see my screen? Can you see a mind map up there right now? Yeah, it's very dense, but it's very simple. What I was just talking to Paul about was the best order of things is to target an expired. Okay. And so what you do is you pick one a week. It just follows this mind map. You pick one a week in your median price in the target area. You make a seller package. Okay. You make a seller package and you add it to the contact pipeline manager. That's just once a week. That's what I'm trying to say. Pick one expired Monday. Okay. Greater than the median price or right around it in the part of Seattle you want. And then you prepare a seller package and you add that name as a lead to your contact pipeline manager. Then you put that package in your car and you drive by that car 5 consecutive business days, and the script tells you exactly what to say. That's it. That's all I would do if I'm anybody in this business. If I was starting it again, that's where I would start. I wouldn't quit my day job, and I would do exactly that. Okay. So I'm going to put this, Paul. I don't know, and Ben, you could do it because you're good at coordinating this stuff with that team out there too. I'm going to put this into the chat, and if you could disseminate that to Rowan. Rowan, you need to get there's a software called Xmind. Xmind, you can go to xmind.com and download it for free. You'll need that to open this mind map. Okay. But I can't make it any simpler than just those couple of things. It's extremely specific on what to do. Don't let your mind see all of the waves. Just follow that, that top little section about expireds. That's it. I want you to read that thing. You're asking a question it doesn't say call. Okay. It says door knock. So I want you to go do this. Go look at that mind map and digest it. And then if you're around for the call on Friday, tell me where you understand it and where you don't. But look at it first. It's very visual. Just follow the branches. They tell you exactly what to do. Okay. Yeah, good. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'm OT. So thank you for being here. 2 weeks off. No Wednesday, no Wednesday. And I will be back with an improved version of this, not the least of which will be a little bit of a juxtaposition of the mindset stuff, probably week 2. Now that I think about it, I'll go over the model again in the beginning. And then I see what's happening here. You're going to ask me more and more tactical questions. I'll try to make a component of every call be very specifically do this tactical thing. Okay. So that we don't just talk the high level, we get right into what to do. Because you can see Rowan here asking this question. We have a specific what to do and then how to do it program. What to do is the 12 steps, and how to do it is the tactical plan so that you can get off one of these calls and go do this stuff. All right. So, but keep showing up to these calls because it takes a while to train your brain to see things simply. That mind map does not look simple. Turns out it's super simple if you really start to understand it. All right, gang. Have a good night. You're welcome.